Zone, Hack Zone. Hack Zone, Hack Zone.
Welcome everyone to the second segment of CampZone. This time we're going to talk about the CampZone 20 badge. We're going to give you a short introduction. With me I have a very special guest, Anne-Jan, on the left of your screen. Anne-Jan is one of the core members, SMI, of badge.team. And we're a group of people who like making event badges like the CampZone 20 badge. Anne-Jan has been on the team for far more years than I have. He's worked, for starters, on the SHA 2017 badge. It's a very famous badge for the reason that this is the first iteration of the software that we've used since then for the past 4 years on, I think, 12 badges or so. So Anne-Jan, thank you for joining. Maybe you want to begin by talking about how you got into this badge stuff.
Well, yes. Hello, Anne-Jan Brouwer. In 2009, I went to, no, it was 2011, sorry. I went to a German hacker camp called CCC camp. And there at the entrance, I was given a rocket. I don't have one with me, but it was a rocket-shaped PCB with the screen of a Nokia 3210, something like that. The famous Nokia screen. Some batteries, and you could play games on it and do some more stuff and even write your own code. And then I thought, that's pretty nice. We want something like that. We want it different. We want to make it easier, because to get started with coding for that, you had to download a toolchain, compile a lot of stuff. A knowledgeable hardware hacker would be busy for 2 hours before he could get a hello world on the screen. And then when you had your app, you could share it with your direct neighbors by using a serial cable, send it over. But then if you wanted to share it with other people, you could get it in the new software update, which they would push. But then you had to go to their tent, talk to someone, hand over the code, they would put it in their repository. That wasn't easy enough. So then I started thinking, let's do this for the next Dutch event. And it didn't happen for the next Dutch event because of it takes a lot of time. And then, yeah, I finally got a good crew together, and we did manage to get all my dreams working for the 2017 version, which was awesome. Because, yeah, in our case, we want to make badges that are accessible for people. You have to start hacking instantly without taking an age to compile stuff, download a lot of libraries. And I think Tom has managed even more than we have ever managed with this one. Awesome.
Yeah, right. So last year's badge, the iPain, this ran on the same software that Anne-Jan built and I contributed to with a bunch of other people. And the same exact software is now running on the current year's badge. And I'll tell you, by the way, this previous badge, the iPain, it was so cool. So many people thought it was so much fun that we were sitting like this for a year about what we would do this year for CampZone. But I'm very happy to see that people are really enjoying this year's badge as well. And we're quite proud with the result. So let's talk about what we're going to do today during this session. First, I will show you how to assemble your new badge. Then we're going to show some of the cases that other people have made for this. We're going to show the web interface that is special for this badge, that's new. And anywhere in between, you can ask your questions. Please use the Twitch chat for this. It's the only one that we see. Mm-hmm. So you can just interrupt.
And I see a lot of cyber.
Cyber.
But yes.
Yeah, so I'm wearing a cyber shirt, of course. It's the only proper attire for such an occasion.
Yeah, I'm wearing an old CCC Congress shirt.
It's acceptable too, right? Okay, so if we still have some time after all this stuff, we might write some code. I have some interesting thoughts to do. So first off, assembly. In your badge package is a flyer that lists a URL. When you go to the URL, you see our wiki, which you also see on your screen here. And on it are assembly instructions. We're going to follow now these assembly instructions with a new kit, and I will show you how to do it in the video. So for this we have a very nice overhead cam. In your package you have all the items that you see here. So the main PCB, the top PCB where the speakers will be attached, very cool stickers, a bag of small components, and of course the silicon keypad. So let's get started. First we're going to attach the keypad to the main PCB.
Ooh, sexy overhead cam action.
Yeah, actually I will send a picture later of how I constructed this overhead cam. It's a webcam that is held in place by a soldering helping hand that clips it in front of my computer like this.
Nice.
I think it's very funny to see. Okay, so we put the keypad on the badge. From the back you insert one of the risers, like such, and then you secure it in place with one of these things, a nut, or in Dutch, een moertje. You don't want to over tighten it. See, I don't know if you can see it. When you over tighten it, you squeeze the rubber, and it goes upwards here. So the buttons don't press as nicely anymore. So you want it ever so gently pressing the rubber. We will do this for all 4 corners now.
Just a bit higher. Yep.
Yeah, I will tell you, it's quite hard to navigate one of these overhead cams as you're doing something. So I have 3 displays currently. On the left, you see my live screen that shows the web browser and stuff like this that we were previously looking at. In the middle, I have my Twitch open, where I see all of your questions. And on the right, I have a combination of my own overhead cam and some of the chats and Discord and other stuff that we use. So it's quite interesting to try to navigate everything correctly. But we're almost there. Anne-Jan, how long did it take you to assemble your badge, the first one?
I think 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
The hard part is still coming up. I'll comment a bit on that.
So
and there was one very hard bit, which we'll also comment on later.
Nice. So the first development badges that we sent out without instructions. We just gave everyone the components and wished them luck.
Do your thing.
Right. So some of them were very quickly, and others had to be given some hints, of course.
Well, I did at first put the screws on the wrong way, so then I was like, okay, that's not very practical. Oh yes, the other way around.
Right.
So there were some, but still, yeah, I'm very used to putting kits together, and I've seen the pictures before, so I had a bit of cheating.
Right, exactly. So now we have the keypad attached. We can press buttons, but nothing happens yet, of course. And now we will assemble the top PCB. That's the only one that's in an anti-static bag. Actually, I got shit from this.
Even though it has no components.
Yeah.
No active components.
I got shit for this from Sebastius, who said, "Oh man, you're putting this main PCB in the bag without any anti-static bag around it." Mm-hmm. But of course, it was in a bubble envelope, which isn't necessarily anti-static. But it was protected against nasty things happening anyway. And you can imagine we hand-packed all of these bags ourselves. Mostly just my girlfriend, actually, Katarina. So you can imagine 500 times putting something inside of a bag is a lot of extra time that you really don't want to spend. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're placing the speakers, and we want them to align in the yellows, the white circles drawn on the PCB. So I will try to do this semi-accurately. You can laugh at my performance in the chat. You want to press it a bit so it stays in place, and do the same for the left one. Of course, this left one is very important that you don't put the wire on top of the Hack the Planet, because Hack the Planet is really cool.
So Who's going to be the first person on the chat to tell us what movie that was from?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Of course, it was the best seen movie ever made. Now, when you connect these connectors, you have to pay attention to the sort of stripe that is on the side. It doesn't show on my webcam, but you can see it in real life. It has a certain height, and you can see the same slot in the connector on the PCB. You want to make sure those align properly. So I think it goes like this. No, of course it goes the other way around, like this. It might be like USB, right? That you do it a couple times, and then the third time where you put it exactly the same way as the original time, then it works. Yeah, I think it works like this.
Superposition.
Well, there we go. So for future reference, and this will also be on the wiki, of course, the shiny part where you see the pins goes up. So we will do the same now for the right side or the left side, however you see it. And we will have assembled our top PCB. Now, Anja, was this the hard part you were talking about, or is it still coming?
No, this was almost the hard part.
Okay, so now our top PCB looks like this. It's already almost complete, but not entirely. We will now physically connect it to the main PCB, but not yet electronically. We'll do that with these two hinges. So I have a trick, and I hope it works during the live stream as well. So first you insert these hinges on the main PCB, like this. You have to use a bit of force, but not overly much. You don't want to break them. And they will already be locked. They have a tiny latch that locks them in place. Okay, and now we will jiggle a bit from the side. So we begin with one side. You will jiggle the top PCB in, and it's connected like that. Okay, I'm really proud of myself now. Was that the part that got you running on?
Well, yeah, I was very afraid because I know from experience that 3D printed stuff is usually pretty brittle, and I actually broke one of the hinges.
Nice.
Even though I was being careful.
Yeah.
There's also someone on the chat. Careful with the latch. Mine was broken.
Oh no.
So yeah.
So I hope it wasn't broken
that
before.
That was in my case the actual hard part, but that wasn't the hardest part. That will still come up. That's okay. So this is
the only part that remains actually. We have to electronically connect now the top PCB to the bottom PCB. We have to do that with this flat cable. Now this flat cable on the back side has two of these blue squares, and these are a lot more rigid plastic than the middle part. So we can use these to push them in. So I like to bend it almost 90 degrees like this, and slide it in the slot and press it with your fingernail like this, and then it's in. We can do the same thing hopefully for the other side. So we bend it 90 degrees. This one is a bit more tricky because you can't put your nail behind it, but you can squeeze it in from the side like this, and it's in as well. So I didn't time myself, but I think we did pretty well. Now, once you get to this stage and you turn it on, you will be greeted with a very nice boot animation. I actually don't know if this badge is flashed. I don't think it is, so I can't show it. But I think it's quite fun. So let us know in the chat whether you enjoyed this, the boot animation and the boot sound, because we thought it was quite nice.
I liked it. I purposefully reflashed my preview edition with the gold firmware as soon as it was released, just to get that experience.
So actually,
and also for testing, of course.
Some insider information: the boot animation is still in the firmware after you boot it for the first time. So someone could write an app that
Mhm.
starts it again. Hint, hint.
Very easily. I know
Yes.
exactly how.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell though.
It's splashing this boot sequence. Once you
Yes.
once you get to this stage, there's something else that you can do. Namely, a few people made some cases for this badge that you can use, and I will show a few of them now. So first off,
Well, there's also something else that you probably should do,
tell me.
and that is insert a micro SD card. And that was the hard part. It took me
Ah,
10 minutes to assemble without instructions to assemble the whole thing. But
so
then when
let's
it
go back
came
to
to
the
the micro
overhead.
SD card, and I can try it here on the video on the webcam to see if it shows. I was used to these slots where you just click and then it goes in, and then you click again and it goes out. So I was like, why isn't it fitting? Is there some solder error? I was looking at it until I finally noticed the hinge. But you can probably show that better on the overhead cam.
Yes, I think so. So
This
here
took me a lot longer than assembling. So
we have
seriously,
an SD card
no
holder.
kidding.
That's optional. You don't need it. The badge works fine without. But if you want to, for example, use Gillis's soundboard app that has a lot of memalicious sounds, it's very nice to have an SD card. And we used a really, really, really cheap SD card holder because we didn't have a lot of budget for this badge. I think we paid less than 10 cents each. So instead of having this nice thing where you can inject the card and press it into a spring, this one latches open like this, like an old SIM card holder. You have to put in the SD card and then awkwardly latch it back. So close it and then latch it into a locked position. This wasn't immediately clear to many people, including me actually. I broke my first holder before realizing that it did this. So this is very
I
true.
almost broke mine.
No.
I was at the point of taking a heat gun to it. And then I was like, oh wait. Ah, fuck.
Right.
So yeah.
So if you have
That
any
happened.
questions, by the way, please let us know in the Twitch chat, and we'll get to you as soon as we read them. I haven't seen any so far, so I hope I haven't missed them. If so, please repeat them. Okay, so Wild and Dogs.
I haven't seen anything.
Does the soundboard work without an SD card? And yes, I think it does, because the path to the samples are configurable. And we'll see this later in the web interface part.
Yeah.
So you can configure your own path, which means that in theory, you can use a path on the internal flash of the badge. But there is a caveat, namely that it takes quite some time to write things to this internal flash. It's much faster to take out the SD card out of your badge, put it in your computer, load some files, and then put the SD card.
You only have a couple of megabytes, which compared to gigabytes on the SD card. Also, JP Ownman asked, do you need to format before inserting an SD card? Yes, please, FAT32. And I think it goes up to 32 gigabytes. Is that right?
Yeah, so someone said actually they had a 200 gigabyte SD card working. But I think it's very much dependent on the cluster size you format it with. But it's kind of an unsatisfactory answer, this, because we have no clue what the correct cluster size is. You have to figure this out yourself still. In any case, we know that 32 gigabytes FAT32 formatted in default settings, this works very nicely.
Works, yeah.
Yeah.
And smaller as well. So if you get an 8 or 16 gig micro SD, it will probably work.
And in fact,
so yeah, cases.
You said that we only have a few megabytes of internal flash, but actually Espressif sponsored us their flagship model of the ESP32 chip that runs on the badge. So we have 16 megabytes of flash and 8 megabytes of RAM. And I think the current soundboard folder of Gillis is 5 megabytes or so.
2.5, so, yeah, something like that.
2.5 even, yeah. Okay, so he can grow his collection a lot.
It might have been an older version.
Yeah. So he can grow his collection a lot before the internal flash runs out. And so the most important caveat that remains is of course that it takes a while to write all these files. But you will find this out.
Yeah, Espressif Systems, awesome company. They have been a good partner of us with questions, with help, with getting us anything we need. Ever since 2017, ever since Batch Team wasn't even Batch Team.
Yeah, they're really cool. I don't think we've had an event so far where they haven't sponsored with ESP32s, and they are always the nicest people to respond. They're super quick and super excited always. They have a marketing manager called John Lee, and he's always immediately on board once we send pictures of prototypes. He says, "Okay, very cool, let's do it. Where do I send the stuff?"
Yeah.
So we're very appreciative of them. We're very happy to work with them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Never
so
had an issue.
once you have a badge, there's some cool things you can do immediately to upgrade it. Kartoffel made this very nice 3D printed case. It's very sexy. It makes it look almost immediately
a week before the event.
Yeah. So he had one of the early access badges, and he made very good use of this by immediately open sourcing this design before everyone had their badge even. So this, I think, immediately makes it look like a consumer level device, and I really love this. You can find the files of this on Thingiverse. If you search for CampZone, you will find it in the results. And for me, this takes on draft settings about 3 hours to print. So if you want it really high quality, be sure to book your 3D printer for a day. If you don't have a 3D printer, ask someone who has. Many hackerspaces have printers, for example, and most of them will let you use them. So something else that you can do, Mortem NL made a design for laser cut cases. It looks like this. It looks amazing in my view, super cyberpunk. And he is planning, once he finishes this design, he still has a few tweaks to make. He's planning to open source it and also sell it in his web shop, so you can get one even if you don't have a laser cutter, which I think is really nice.
The good thing about laser cut cases is that it takes minutes compared to hours.
It's definitely true, yeah. This will be much faster. But of course, if you don't have a laser printer, that's not your concern, because Morten will be the one making it.
Well, no. The nice thing about laser cut designs is that you don't need a laser cutter for it. You can also print it on a normal printer, just glue it on a piece of wood and use a old school jigsaw and do some manual labor.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. So there's one final thing you can do with your badge. This was released, I think, 2 days ago or yesterday, I don't know. Boekenworm made some keycaps for the CampZone badge. So these are plastic caps that you can put on top of the silicone keys to give them a letter or a symbol, a number. This makes it very useful for some of the apps on the App Store. I think this is super cool, and it looks really rad as well. Okay, so
really nice.
Enough about this. Actually, before I move on, I'll show you what it looks like inside one of these 3D printed units. I think this is very pretty. This is the badge that I will use to show you guys the web interface now.
Whoa.
Here we go.
Let's switch over.
Yes, so you should see the web interface now. This is new for our badges. Anne-Jan, maybe you can tell the viewers what we had to do before to program the badge, or to develop on it.
The SHA 2017 badge, for developing on the badge, you had to do a lot of terrible stuff in a terminal. In my case, it would be a screen / device baud rate, connect to it, and then hope you can copy into files or hack about it, and then put it onto Hatchery. So which is our app store, which is located at hatchery.batch.team or even batch.team. But then I thought, yeah, this is way too much effort, which is also actually why I created Hatchery. Normally, I would just, in our web editor, edit stuff, publish it, download it on the badge by running an update, and then run the app. which it takes a bit more time than what we have now.
So it
But
actually
yeah,
works
before
well,
that,
right?
I would locally be editing. It works.
Yeah.
It works well.
So it
Yes.
worked very well as it was
It's awesome.
for people familiar with this stuff already.
Yes.
For hackers and developers and stuff like this. One of the badge team members actually made sort of a user interface menu inside of this terminal to make some things easier, like connecting to Wi-Fi and stuff like this. But it was kind of hard to explain to people that had never opened the terminal, that don't know what a serial port
or
is.
had to install drivers, had to download software to run it.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of hard to support on different platforms. Indeed, there were drivers you had to install, stuff like this. And since this year, we have a web interface for it. So when you connect your badge, I just reconnected mine. And you click anywhere in the web interface, it will ask you whether you want to connect through your browser over USB to your badge. And once you do, every management, anything you want to modify on your badge can be done from this web interface, which I think is really cool. So
I agree. When I first got my example version, I had been playing with web USB in the past, but never to any extent. So when I got my preview badge and I hooked it up, and I was like, "Oh fuck, we need this for every next project." Like, I don't want to do a project without this anymore.
Yeah, it's really nice to use.
I was really impressed.
So we actually found out whilst Joris, one of the CampZone badge team members, was fiddling with this. It was his idea to do this. Whilst he was fiddling with this, we found out that EMF was also working on this for their badge of this year. And now, unfortunately, EMF was cancelled or pushed back to a later date. So the badge was never released. But it was very nice to see that at least great minds think alike. They were on the same path. I think this is a really nice time to get started in this direction.
Well, the fact that our badges run on MicroPython was very much inspired by EMF Camp. Their 2016 badge also had MicroPython. It even had mostly the same interface library that the CZ20 badge uses. Part of our app model is compatible-ish with EMF. But the main issue I had with the EMF Camp badge wasn't so much with the badge, but with their app store, which required you to go through manual accreditation, and every commit that you did to their app store was manually checked by a single person before it was allowed on the app store. And in our case, we just say, everybody put everything on there. We have very minor moderation in case of people putting up terrible things, but we have barely ever used it. And our moderation is afterwards and not before.
Right, and this gives you a lot of freedom to build apps. Because of this, we see in all the events that we do, where we have a badge that uses this badge team hatchery, that there's just an explosion of apps. So here we see all the apps made for the CampZone 20 badge already. And mind you, we released this not even a week ago, right? Most people got it on Tuesday or Wednesday. And there's pages full of apps. And this is just the working ones. There are also in progress ones. The list makes it even longer. So this is really nice. Whenever you upload your app on hatchery.badge.team here, you can create a new app. And once you do, it immediately shows up for everyone in our web interface for the badge. So this is really nice. Okay, so to get back to this web interface, what can you do with it? So for starters, you can modify your home screen. The home screen is what the badge boots in by default. It shows you pretty lights. And you can modify the color of these lights. So this green one here, I can make yellow, for example. And it will write a configuration to the badge, tell us that it updated it, and immediately on the badge it updates to this new color as well. So let me put it back. You can change what app is associated to what button. So here the MIDI controller is selected, but I can put it to CyberTyper if I want to. Or I can make a second button for MIDI controller, make it maybe red. And as you install new apps, they will show up in this list. So whenever you click on a button in your home screen, you can configure an app to it. Now, what about if your home screen is full? We have some pagination in here. So you can switch to different pages, and only on this page, for example, put an application. Now, if I switch to my overhead cam, you can see on the badge we have page 1. And if we press the right arrow, this touch button here, once we go to screen 2, which doesn't have any buttons, 3, which has the red one that we just installed. So this is really powerful. You can make as many pages as you want and organize your apps whatever way you like. So we really like this. We think it's really rad. Aniel, maybe you can see in the meantime if someone has any questions.
Well, I was looking, but not really.
So Noor Draconia says, if I modify an app, how do I then run it? So once you modify an app, Noor, and you run an app from the badge, it immediately runs the latest version of the code. So as you modify apps, and we'll see in a minute how this works, as you modify it, you immediately update it for future runs.
Yep. And in the case of an app that gets updated on Hatchery, you can update it via the web interface.
Nice. Intermit Tech says that he put his super secret All My Passwords app on page 26. Yeah, that sounds very secure. Very nice. Okay, so now we're going to show you how to install an app, and you have to pay very careful attention because it's super hard. So you locate an app that you find interesting. For example, here is a Photoshop app made by Yillis, where you can draw pictures by pressing on buttons. And you have to press this install button, and that's it. So this is now how difficult it is to install apps. It's immediately on your badge already. You can select it in the list now. So we want to Photoshop, maybe make it a pretty blue name. So I don't know if you hear this. But as you install new apps, it will automatically generate a spoken name for it, so that when you long press it, it will speak the name of the app that you selected. So I hope this picks up on the stream. It just said Photoshop. This is the app that we just installed. We can launch it, and hopefully it works. Here we can make a picture by drawing things.
Photoshop, yes.
Yes. So here we can make beautiful drawings. I'm sure Yillis can do it much prettier than I can. Here we go. Now this is purple. Beautiful. And so it really is as easy as this now. It's just point and click. I'll switch back to the browser. So installing apps and configuring them on your home screen and stuff like this, I think we've made it as easy as we can. And I really love using this. And I hope many of you all do as well.
Oh, there's a wish list in my case. I want to get full Hatchery integration into the web interface, so logging in, adding projects, etc., and keep the current Hatchery a bit as a legacy interface, because the current Hatchery works fully without any JavaScript or whatever. So I'm thinking of just adding complete Hatchery integration into this as soon as I have a bit of holiday time.
Yeah. So JP Ownman asks, is there a change log for the updates? And the answer is sort of. So we have a GitHub repository
for the badge apps.
Oh, sorry. If the question is for the badge apps, then Anne-Jan will answer, of course.
Technically, I have a log of all the descriptions it has had, but there is no such thing as a changelog currently unless you use Git integration, as Sebastian said. Hatchery has a Git integration, so you can just use Git as a backend for creating your apps, and then you have the whole full Git experience. But currently, there's no support for a changelog or something. So I'll add that to the to-do list.
No.
GitHub batch team hatchery.
So
And if other people have any good ideas, just create an issue on github.com/batch team/hatchery/issues, which I'll put in the chat as well.
So if the question is about firmware, which it wasn't, but it might be, we have a GitHub repository for this, batch team/OTA, and in here we push new builds, and sometimes we even put what kind of stuff we fixed there for each of the push that we do. Every push is one release, so it's sort of a changelog, right? But we don't want to get too professional. Okay, so this is how to use and install apps and how to configure your home screen. But you probably want to do a bit more than that. So one of the things that for me is always really important about these badges is to teach people about new stuff. I really like seeing people learn new skills, and we think it's easier than ever to do on this badge. In this view, programming and files, we've made the entire file system of the badge accessible for you. So you can view, for example, apps. We can look at the CyberTyper app that is installed by default, open its code in this init.py file, and make modifications. So let's say we don't want to have, but we want to have green values. We can modify this. So this is 2 letters for red, 2 letters for green, and 2 for blue. So now I changed it from blue to green. We can save it. And then in the home screen, if I can remember which one is the CyberTyper, we quickly check. CyberTyper is the red one. In the home view, if we now open CyberTyper, it will be green instead of blue. And it's that easy to modify stuff. So if you have a radio app, for example, that you want to modify to your own radio station, it's just a matter of opening the file, making a modification, clicking on save, and you can run it again. So we're super happy with this. This to us makes it a lot easier to see what's going on, to make modifications, and also as a developer, to make new apps. This is very important. So in here, if I want to develop my own app, I can just make a new folder. Call it maybe Tom Test. In this folder, I can create a new file. And this we have to name specifically init.py. It's a Python thing. And in here, we can just say print works. We can save it, and now we have an app that will print something to the serial output. Now that's another interesting thing. We used to have to connect to the serial port of the badge via our computer. That was what Anne-Jan was talking about. You had to use Screen or PuTTY or something like this. And now we have this Python terminal included in the web page. In fact, last week it was made even nicer than it already was by Wouter. Because he made it into an actual terminal instead of the text field that we had. So now I think I can type, if it allows me to type. Of course it doesn't allow me to type. It's the demo effect, right? I can type nothing. I should be able to type system.start Tom Test, which is the app that we just made, and then it should have printed works. But it looks like my page hangs. So I can't type that right now. So normally you would be able to immediately use your app, and this makes it so much faster to develop. You don't need to upload anything anymore. And this is just extremely nice for us. Okay, so maybe I am allowed to type now. I am. You have to excuse how slow it is. This is not normal, but we'll call this the continue demo effect.
Demo effect. Yes.
No, I will give up on running this program via the terminal because it seems like my computer does not like both streaming and typing stuff here. So this is programming. You can also upload files. This is dangerous for me to demo right now because I don't have any open files. So if I open my file explorer, I don't know where it opens. You can drag and drop things into this directory tree. It will look something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So you can drag and drop stuff into folders, into their parents, and it will upload the files from your computer directly to the batch. Now this is super nice and very useful for text files and stuff like this. But for larger files, it takes a very long time. And currently, we don't have any progress report for it. You don't know if it's still doing something or not. If you have a solution for this, please send a pull request. We would be very, very happy with this.
Yes, please. All pull requests and issues are welcome, by the way. They might not get included, but everything is welcome.
Yeah. So someone is saying in the chat that my audio is skipping. If this is happening for you as well, let me know and I'll try to fix it. Quintix Box asks, what happens to the modifications when the app is updated in the hatchery? This is a very interesting question, and I can show you the answer, hopefully. Back to the first edition, and I save it. We can see what happens when something is updated on the hatchery, but not locally. Also, my audio skipping seems to be increasing. It says.
Yeah, it's increasing because now it's also skipping for me over the direct channel.
Okay, let me see if there's something I can do. Yeah.
We have a latency. I don't know.
Okay. So I can increase the quality of my Twitch stream. I hope it's better now.
Ah. Complaining that I'm also skipping.
Yeah, so maybe it's a thing with the CampZone streaming server. I don't know.
Might be.
I can hear you properly now. So I will just continue, and we will see what happens. So I modified the revision to revision 1 for the Soundboard app, and with this I can now show you what happens when something gets updated on the server but not locally. Because now our batch thinks that we have Soundboard version 1 installed, whereas the version on the store will be version 8. If we go into apps and to the Soundboard app, it now says an update is available. It will check automatically with the server, and we can install this update. Now this will just do a regular install, so you will again see the progress bar. It will write the latest files, and then complete.
And your changes are gone.
Yep.
But now, you have to manually select update. So
yeah, this is true. We have no way to update all apps yet, but I've heard that someone is working on an update all apps app that can update the apps from the batch. So the problem is we can't do this easily from the website. Because
that was one of the first apps for the SHA-2017 batch that was not written by a batch team member.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same for CampZone 2019.
Or was it Sebastian? I can't remember. Could have been Sebastian. Huh.
No.
Update all apps was mine. Yes. Okay, Sebastian.
Nice. So now when we look again at the metadata, you will see that the revision is back to 8. So we're at the latest version. So that's app updating. What we haven't talked about yet is setting up Wi-Fi and configuring your audio. Both of these settings do not retain their value in the browser. So when I set my audio to 70 and then go back into the settings view, it will say 255 again, but on the badge it's still 70. If you get really irritated by this, please send us a pull request. It will be welcome. For the audio settings, we can do this very easily. We can just save the result on the website.
Yeah.
For Wi-Fi, we will not because we don't want.
Or get the thing from the badge.
Yeah, it's a bit more involved.
Ask the badge. Yeah, I know,
it's
but
a bit more involved because we don't have output yet. We only have file access. So you would need to execute something that writes the file and then read the file. Yeah. It's also possible, but maybe not too nice.
Mm-hmm.
For the Wi-Fi settings, we will not store the credentials obviously on the website, so it will just get cleared every time you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could save the SSID. I don't know. Now, as you can see below, applications can also register their own settings, like the Soundboard app has and the Photoshop app. I think there was actually a question in the chat. Can I use the Soundboard without an SD card? And yes, you can. Here you can modify the path to not use SD, but maybe cache, Soundboard. Here you click save, it updates, and now you can run the Soundboard app with MP3s in this folder instead of on the SD card. So that makes it super nice to tweak apps. In the Photoshop app, you can tweak what the color of every button press will become. So it's also really rad. Noor is asking in the chat, what about writing an app from scratch? Noor, tomorrow, I think at 1 from the top of my head, Sake and I will do a stream specifically about this. So we will spend the whole hour writing an app from scratch and showing you how to do it. So Sinbit asks, can you list updatable apps on the update screen?
Not yet, but I made an issue on GitHub.
Yeah, so currently we can't because we have the same problem there as why we don't have an update all button. Namely, if we have to traverse over all the apps that are installed, and if there are a lot of them, then this would really slow down the web interface and possibly be very glitchy. So we don't have an oversight of what app needs to be updated until you open one app, because then we load the metadata for that one app. If you have any ideas on this, let us know, because we'd be very interested as well. Now there's one thing that we haven't shown you yet. It's a luckily very easy one. I will show you how to update your badge. For this you need Wi-Fi, so first in settings you need to have configured your Wi-Fi and checked whether it works. And then you just press this update button here. I can show you on the overhead cam what that looks like. So I'm pressing now in the browser the update over Wi-Fi button, and it will reboot the badge, or it should reboot the badge anyway. Of course it's not. I will try to reload it. So I'm pressing again now, and it really doesn't want to play. What you should see when I do this is that the badge reboots, and then it shows a screen with very dim LEDs, and you will see green LEDs slowly fill the screen. This is your progress. Maybe Anne-Jan was trying. Is not anymore.
I was, but then it didn't.
Now and you see what you do.
Good.
So we've rebooted the badge. You see very dimmed LEDs. It's connecting to Wi-Fi and now updating the firmware. So it's pulling new firmware from the server and writing it to Flash. Now, if this fails, it doesn't connect to Wi-Fi or it hangs or whatever, you don't need to be scared. You can just unplug the badge and it will not mess up your system. It will just reboot as normal.
Yeah. Because ever since the 2017, we've done a dual partition system where the over-the-air update gets written to one partition and you're booting from the other partition. And only when the full image is replaced, then you can boot from the secondary partition.
Yeah,
so in theory, and also mostly in practice, you can't fuck up your badge with over-the-air updates and that kind of stuff.
And in fact,
don't
if I'm
think
not
that is-
mistaken, we're using now, 4 years later, the exact same code as was used for the SHA 2017 batch.
Yeah, which I wrote in like a day, in one evening. As a demo. Like, we need to get this working. It was a tiny bit refactored because the certificate pinning is now different and nicer. But other than that, yeah, exact same code.
Yeah. And there's, I think, 2 reasons for this. The first one is it's very nice and stable. And the second one is we definitely don't want to touch it, because if we break it, then we risk breaking all the badges that we have. So I think we will keep it like this for now.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we went over everything in the web interface. If you have any questions, let us know in the Twitch chat. JP Ownman asked just now, did I connect with Wi-Fi? And yes, of course I did. But luckily I did this before the demo, so I didn't have to type in my SSID and my password here live on the air. So I was already connected to Wi-Fi. That was not the reason why that update failed. We will just call this the demo effect.
I'll show this for the Nachtbraker SHA 2017 badge. Is that actually visible? Yes, it is. It has a nice grayscale e-ink and looks a tiny bit like a Game Boy. Questions on Twitch.
And actually someone, I think someone made a Game Boy emulator for it as well.
Yes, that was even before the event. Trummel Hudson, he was one of the people helping out with the sweatshop of fixing those badges. Long story. You can look it up on the internet. There's an interesting talk by Sebastius and Kartoffel on this. But anyway, Trummel Hudson was helping out with the sweatshop, so he got one of the preview badges from that sweatshop to take home and play with, and he did a full firmware replacement, which is a Game Boy emulator. Then he started looking for a nice open source ROM to put on, or homebrew public domain ROM to put on. So there's a Game Boy emulator on GitHub, Trummel Hudson's GitHub for it, and yes, it also loads other ROMs than just the what is it, the 2048 game, I think was the free ROM he put on.
Very nice. So QuintXbox says it would be handy to have important URLs on the web USB page. And for the wiki, I agree. We should add maybe even a menu button for it. But for the hatchery, it already is present. But we can maybe make it more clear. So it's not a clickable URL right now, and it maybe should be.
Yeah.
So what we really would like.
Well, I really would like is full hatchery integration.
Yes. So what I would really love to have is here on the programming view, a button that just says create new app. You put in an app name, it automatically makes a metadata file for you. It initializes a README, stuff like this. And when you're content with it, it can be uploaded with the press of a button to the hatchery. I think this would be really, really nice.
Yeah, the API stuff is almost there. It just needs a bit of interface work.
Yeah. So it was our plan.
I think technically speaking,
but we didn't get to it.
Yeah.
So maybe
my estimation is that it's about 8 to 12 hours of work. Is my estimate.
Yes.
And these days I'm pretty good at estimates, so it's not double that.
If you want to sponsor us 8 hours, let us know. We can make this really cool feature. I think it would help a lot. And I'm convinced for the next batch where we use this kind of stuff that we will do it.
Oh yes,
sure.
Yes, we'll have it. It's a must-have in my book.
What you all looked at in this presentation, I think I don't exaggerate if I tell you this was between 300 and 500 man-hours of work, getting the batch done, getting the web interface done, everything. It of course took much work over many years by Anna-Jan. So you can imagine at some point enough is enough, and we're really content with how far we got this time.
That's true. That's very true.
Right. So if you have any more questions, let us know in the chat. Sebastius is saying that I now have a new middle name called Glitch. Tom Glitch Halcyon.
Glitchion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will.
I think we're also out of time.
Yeah, we're I will look back the stream later. Glitchiness. I even took special care before starting the stream to connect an Ethernet cable to my computer because I was on Wi-Fi before, and that would for sure not have sufficed. But I have quite a nice uplink at home, so I hope that that's not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So JP Ownman,
thank you very much.
Nice work. I really appreciate it. It's very nice to hear.
Yeah, this is an awesome badge.
It's also incredibly rewarding to see all the traffic on Twitter. People have already played audio concerts with the synthesizer app. Very many people have made applications themselves, like Gilles, Renze. People have made 3D printed stuff, like Kartoffel and Boekenworm. It's just incredibly rewarding to see this kind of stuff on Twitter. So if you have something cool to share, please share it on Twitter, preferably for us. Tag Hackzone NL into it, and I will retweet it into heaven for sure. This really gives us a very nice feeling.
Yes, it's
okay. Yeah, I have to agree.
Hi guys.
I have to agree with the last comment. Just one more comment from Twitch. Worse than the glitches is that at a glance, the yellow shirt and the yellow parts of the Hacker Hotel hoodie together make that Tom has a comically small body with his
nice
with arms and a head.
Right.
Maybe I can make.
So that I think that's the best ending for a thing like this.
Now I'm a langlaufer.
Yeah.
And with that, I think I'm going to close you off, guys.
Yes, thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for this presentation about the event badge. There were definitely a lot of interested people in chat. And if you guys have any more questions, we also have a Hackzone channel on Discord, a text channel. So you can always ask your questions in that channel. So yeah, hop in there if you just want to show off your badge, things you've made with it. You can also you're also welcome at Discord with us.
Yes.
And,
do you like this kind of stuff? Tomorrow, Sake and I will have a presentation about writing apps. And Wednesday, Quinten will show you how to make music on your own computer using the badge as a controller, which I think is also really cool. On Thursday, there will be a soldering workshop by Sebastius, who will improve your audio path. And on Sunday, from the top of my head, we have a Ask Me Anything with me and possibly someone else. If you want someone else there, let us know. So if you like this kind of stuff, do check in. We'd love to see you again.